Alright, so let's start up with the Geek Out is here with the Venom review, as promised. Now, let's start with what would you say were your expectations going in to see the movie?
So, expectations, for me personally, thinking Venom, I was really hoping for it to be an R-rated movie. I was definitely looking forward for that extra level of intensity, something that other characters didn't usually bring to the table, I'd say, so far in the cinematic universe. And I was expecting Venom definitely to have a lot of characteristics when it came to like savagery type of like almost animalistic like behavior.
Right. Okay, so that's what you were expecting. That's not saying anything to do with the actual watching the movie. That's what you were going in looking for. Okay, see, and with myself, I like that you had a different perspective than me. I was actually going in with trying to be as positive as possible, but with the negative expectations, because as I mentioned in the previous episode, I feel like it came too soon. You know what I mean? Especially because we just got a teenage Spider-Man, and Venom. 80% of who Venom is because he was part of Spider-Man prior to being with Eddie Brock. So, you know, with that being said, watch that episode. But also the fact that it was rated R, and that's something, you know, and that's why, I felt that it was being ruined. I'm actually wearing my Deadpool shirt because, as you guys see in the other episode, I blamed Deadpool for being the reason why I had low expectations for this movie.
Oh, gotcha.
But with that being said, the fact that it went from being a rated R movie to a PG-13 movie definitely didn't help.
Yeah.
In fact, I was like, what are they thinking? What? And with that, like I said,
concerned.
I was a little concerned, as you guys have heard me mention plenty of times, but I went in there as hopeful and as positive as possible. So now, let's talk about the movies.
All right.
So here's the spoilers, guys. Get ready for it. On the count of 3, we're gonna say if we love it or hate it.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hate it.
I'm in between.
He took the easy way out.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. And the comment section might hate me for it, but they're allowed to have their opinion as well. You want to go first, or should I?
No, because I'm on one side. You have a more interested opinion, so I want to hear what makes you in between.
Alright, so for me, my personal opinion of the movie, the reason why I can't say that I love it, I definitely can't say that because there was too many things that did not line up in the movie when it came to storyline. One of those things being, for example, Venom ended up coming to Earth, a known storyline from anyone that's seen other Spider-Man movies, on a meteor. That was one thing. So from the start, he wasn't necessarily part of this other group of symbiotes. He's associated with them, but that doesn't mean that he was one of the main ones for part of these other symbiotes.
I felt like they left a huge piece of that pie where it was like, okay, what is his connection to these other symbiotes?
Exactly.
Or excuse me, symbiotes, they want to call them. So, because they tell you who Riot is, the main bad guy in the movie, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The bad symbiote in the movie. And they tell you who he is, but they don't say who Venom is to him and why he feels the need to get Venom so badly. He's like, he's like, I can't leave until we find Venom. We must find Venom, but why? You know, he didn't say, like he had a history with Venom. He didn't say Venom was his number one general, and he wasn't gonna. He didn't believe he could win the war without him, or something like that. Give us something. Okay.
That was definitely one thing for sure. The second thing was when it came to end credit scenes, one of them that we got was supposed to be of Carnage. This was kind of like known and hyped up a little bit. Carnage never even was shown actually as a symbiote. They just ended up putting an actor in there to kind of act crazy, and it's like, okay, I like the fact that they like tried to shout out to it, but I was hoping for more. It was kind of not that abrasive, like not that immersive scene.
And that's one of the things, and that's why, like, when I was, I probably should have mentioned the predictions that had me a little bothered, was when they also announced that not only was this going to be PG-13, but also the beginning of, I want to say, a trilogy. So they already plan on making more movies before they even see how good this one does.
Yeah.
And I'm already believing that this isn't going to be as good as they were hoping and expecting it to be. And for us to get another Venom movie, you know, you guys wait till I explain why I feel this way.
Right.
But I almost would be surprised if we got another. But let me ask you, how did you feel about the casting on Cletus Cassidy?
The casting, I actually was really shocked at that. I wasn't really sure what to think of it at first. Very well-known actor and stuff. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, we got spoilers. This is all spoilers, man. Don't be scared. Woody Harrelson.
Yep.
Is gonna play Cletus Cassidy, and I love Woody Harrelson.
I do too. He's done an amazing job in plenty of movies in the past as well. It's not that I don't think he can't do the part. Again, I'm just a little bit upset with the scene because it didn't feel really that immersive and stuff. It wasn't as hype as everyone was thinking that it would. It was
very anticlimactic.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's my huge thing. Like I wanted to mention how much I love Woody Harrelson before I went and talked about how much I hated him as Cletus Cassidy. Like, not only it did not feel like Cletus Cassidy, but he didn't feel like a crazy person at all. You know what I mean? He almost just felt like a tough guy that had a reason to feel tough. But other than that, he didn't come off as a sadistic lunatic like Cletus Cassidy does. You know? I
agree. I feel like also because of how they've set the tone for Venom, of not necessarily letting that like rage or crazy animalistic behavior come alive on screen, that they limited themselves as for how they can portray Cletus Cassidy as well as Carnage. The fact that they ended up setting that tone kind of kills how they're going to be able to represent Carnage if there are future movies.
What do you mean? I'm not...
Well, Carnage was a animalistic, more so beyond any of the other symbiotes, to the point of out of control. Like, straight up, compared to this movie, we're talking more gory, way worse, than what this first Venom movie is. And because Venom has now set that tone that they're not going to go rated R, you're not going to be able to see that level of intensity that Carnage is supposed to bring compared to Venom.
Exactly. No, that's a great point. A very great point.
Yeah.
You know, and that's because, you know, they don't know what they want to do. You know what I mean? Just like, it kind of reminds me, and I'm gonna save a lot of this for when we do the DC versus DC's top 10 worst movies, because this is the same issue that they had with the Suicide Squad, where it's like one minute they wanted to be that dark and gory and R-rated to the max type of movie, but then they all of a sudden they saw the success of these other movies that were a little more campy, so now they're trying to cater to that, and with that, I feel like that
you can't cater to both.
Yeah, you gotta choose one or the other, and I felt like that's one of the biggest problems I had with this movie, is that it was wishy-washy. It was like one minute they were like pushing the limit of the gore, and then right before they got to the gore, it was cut off. It was soft core. So yeah, man. So I feel like you kind of jumped to the end there. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Of course. So the bigger spoiler of all of this, and this is the part that definitely confused me the most, was there's been previews and stuff for a Miles Morales Spider-Verse thing, and I don't want to necessarily focus on that, but what I want to focus on, because it might be a fan theory versus why they included it, was the Spider-Verse is this thing where basically it's a multiverse effect, where there's different Spider-Men of different worlds, yada yada yada. It's a great storyline, go read it yourselves. But besides that storyline, they included this cartoony Miles Morales thing at the very end of the credits, and as if it was like a part of Venom. And that does make me concerned, because I'm like, I'm not going to say that they want to put Venom in that, but it seemed a little bit too attached towards it, and I feel like that's also going to be another problem down the road if they choose to go down that route of trying to link this in any way, shape, or form. Because that would just be weird. It just doesn't feel like those puzzle pieces would fit correctly. So I'm hoping that I'm wrong on that, but the fact that they included it at the end of the credits like that made it seem like they were trying to put it in.
I hope not, because and I almost wonder if that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create the Spider-Verse. Because I'll be honest with you, the only way I can accept this Venom movie is if it's alternate universe Venom, because nothing of this character, this creature, what I mean, it has to do with Spider-Man and the Spider-Man universe, so and everything about Venom and all of his offsprings have traits that come from Spider-Man. It's a huge part of his lore. The fact that he doesn't that he has like that sixth sense, like they say in the movie when he notices someone's coming to the door. He doesn't have Spidey senses if he never had connected with Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? Like the web slinging, all that stuff. I'm glad they didn't put a white white spider on his chest. I'd be like, why? I was almost expecting them to see like a clip of Spider-Man and be like, oh, I like that, and then put a white. I'm so glad they didn't do that. I'm so glad he didn't just like pick up a comic book and it's like, oh, I like that, and then all of a sudden Venom turned himself into a Spider-Man lookalike. But yeah, with that though, you make me question is if that's it, if that's exactly it, because they had the Miles Morales the Spider Universe preview right before it started, and then after they're waiting for the end credit, they have a clip of that movie as if it's part of the whole universe, the same lore or whatever we're going to, and I don't know how they could intertwine it, to be honest with you, though.
That was my point. But it feels weird.
But it's going back to what we're talking about when they made a PG-13, that they say to cater to the kids.
Right, exactly.
But I think that's more like when they first announced this, Deadpool just came out and was a huge success, so they were like, oh, we need a rated R movie. Who's our most rated R character? Venom. Let's throw this out there and get this going. And then all of a sudden the Spider-Man comes out and it's a huge hit, and they're like, everybody loves the funny, silly, wisecracking Spider-Man, and it's a huge hit because it's a family fun for everybody to like. So now all of a sudden they're like, now we gotta cater to that, so it's like I said, they're going back and forth and wishy-washy, and they just gotta pick one genre, one audience base and focus on that.
I agree. But I do want to say, I don't think that the movie was completely trash either. I want to say overall, when it came to, based off of the storyline that they set, not necessarily saying that it was accurate to comics or anything like that, but for the storyline that they gave us so far from this first movie, it was not necessarily a bad movie. When it comes to the personal reference for what we were looking for our expectations, did it meet it? No. Fell pretty short. So on my end, it's definitely lower on my scale, pushing like the I hated it side. But as a movie, it's not terrible exactly to watch. It's not the greatest, but it's definitely not, I'd say, definitely not a terrible movie. It's got a lot of flaws, and then the whole end credits thing where they tried to mix in this Miles Morales thing, it just didn't fit at all, and I feel like that part was pushed way too much, especially for the fact that, again, as we mentioned already, that it was a PG-13 movie that should have been rated R, to be honest.
Big time. Now, we've been pretty negative, though. Let me ask you, what are some of the pros that you liked about some of the things you liked?
Some of the pros that I liked, I do have a couple. So some of the fight scenes where once Venom does get attached to Eddie Brock, and he is part human and part symbiote. So the symbiote has not like overcome his body, but his limbs and stuff start acting as symbiotes and stuff do. Those scenes were actually kind of cool when it came to some of the fight scenes and him like blocking bullets and stuff like that. Those fight scenes were done very well. I'm not going to say that it was a bad fight scene. CGI wise, was it questionable for how Venom looked? Maybe. I would like it to look a little bit more skin like and a little bit less gelatin mass.
It was very shiny.
It's like really shiny. Really shiny. It needs to be just a little bit more like textured and less gelatin.
Liquidy, almost like slimy, like you touched him. Your hand would just slip right off of him, he was just an oil. It looked like a giant oil slick.
Yeah, exactly. It looks too oil-like versus like melted rubber, in my opinion. It needs to have a little bit more of an aggressive rubber look of feel rather than oil.
That's the best analogy, because that's exactly how I always pictured his texture to be, more of a rubbery type of texture than a slimy texture. So.
Exactly. Instead of oil grease, it would be a little bit like of a rough, abrasive rubber, like a used rubber band.
Now, my other problem with the CGI is I don't think it was so consistent with his head being in proportion to his body. I felt at times it was perfect. Like, especially when he first appeared, I thought he looked awesome. Like, I was like, wow. I was happy with it. I think we
might have moved the camera.
Yeah, I hit a bump. So I was happy with the way he looked. I think I was a little more surprised. I was even a little surprised at how happy I was. But there was times like when, for example, when he was on the tower and he was a little hunched shoulder or whatever, his head looked way too small, and that wasn't the only time.
Yeah, there was like some proportionality things that looked kind of weird sometimes.
But other than that, I did think he looked really good, and the fight scenes were really good, really fun. And even though there was one scene, now I know LA, because it's set in San Francisco, by the way, not New York, but as I was mentioning to him in the Venom solo comics, he lived in San Francisco. But the jump on the motorcycle was a little way too exaggerated. I almost like, hold on a second, are we watching Crank right now?
Yeah, it was pretty exaggerated.
Not Crank, what's the other one that he did, the same guy in Crank? Well, not Crank, but whatever the movie was. That Jason Statham movie where he was a driver and all the stunts were ridiculous. Comment below if you guys can remember what movie that was.
Yeah. But I'd say that those were like the main things in the movie that, for me personally, what kept the movie still together was really just some of the fight scenes. But again, Venom did not connect to Spider-Man yet, so parts of it kind of felt like blah when it came to fight scenes as well.
Right.
So it's a weird thing with the fight scenes, because some of them are really, really, really good and well done. And then, for example, the like boss fight between Venom and Riot, parts of it were cool. And then other parts, while they're mid like punching each other as if they're solid objects type of deal, while they're in that like solid form with their hosts,
right,
Venom kind of seemed like a little bit under, like, not well utilized. He didn't seem like he could really do much. And I was like, that's kind of like firing shots at Venom. When it came to that final boss fight with Riot, they just made it look like he was a pushover, to be honest.
Yeah. Like, they really made Venom to seem like he was a loser.
Yeah, a loser.
And that's what this, now I feel like, I don't know if you had any more pros, but I feel like it's a good segue into why I hate this movie.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Eddie Brock and Venom were both losers in this movie, right? Eddie Brock, first off, he had a falling out because of Peter Parker in the stories, and that's why Venom hates Peter Parker. Again, back to why you need Spider-Man for Venom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was just all around a loser, and I hated the way that Tom Hardy portrayed him. You know, he was quirky, he was a little goofy, he talked a little high, he spoke a little high pitched even, and
it wasn't dominant.
No, and he was playing like this successful reporter, and I didn't see anything about him that came off as a successful person in any kind of way. He seemed like a guy who probably worked at the freaking at the local barista or something like that, you know what I mean? And then lives in his parents' basement. He did not come off as someone successful in any kind of way to me, and intimidating in any type of way, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And the same with Venom. As bad as he looked at points of times, he didn't come off intimidating in any kind of way. The banter between the two was goofy, silly, sometimes seemed forced. And was it me, or did Venom's voice seem to change throughout the movie? Like,
yeah, during parts of it, the voice did kind of change. I don't know what was going on when it came to like audio.
It was silly, you know?
Yeah, parts of it seemed off for sure. And same thing with whenever he was fighting Riot. I love how you mentioned like the banter and stuff seemed off when they were fighting and they were on screen at the same time. A lot of those moments when they were like trying to be like the dominant over each other and try to say something to be like, oh, I'm not just punching you in the face, I'm saying something about it as well. In those moments, it kind of felt like lame, to be honest. It wasn't great when it came to a boss fight.
I definitely expected more. Like you said, Venom was definitely underutilized in the boss fight. Could have got way more out of that. I'll tell you though, the other huge thing that got me was the romance, the romantic interest, the girl Anne that he was in love with, how quick she was to just break up with her first off, but then 2, maybe 3 days later, he sees her and she's already got a new man. He's got a key. He's moved in. And she's kissing right in front of her fiance, the guy that she said she was in love with. She was about to get married to. Like, how quick was she just to jump in? How long has she been talking to this guy? You know what I mean? Like, just so like, was he on the back burner? Was how much in love with Eddie Brock was she if she was so quick to have another person in her life? And then later on they tried to reconnect them. And at this point, we're like, we hate this chick. We don't want this chick with Eddie. We want, you know what I mean? To be honest, so that's the other thing, going back to Tom Hardy's portrayal, is I didn't like Eddie. There was no reason for me to like him. His life was going down the drain, and I didn't feel bad for him. I didn't care. They didn't give us any reason to like the guy enough to care about something bad happening to him and feel bad and be like, wish that, oh man, I wish that, things were better for, I hope things are going to be better for him, you know what I mean? Because at this point in time, we didn't know the guy. He was kind of obnoxious, and they gave us no reason for us to care about him. Yeah. And that was a huge flop. And I'm going to say this, man, I mentioned Tom Hardy being a great actor. So many movies that I love him in, and I have to say he needs to stop doing comic book movies, because it's pretty apparent he doesn't know comic books. He doesn't know how to portray Eddie Brock, and he didn't know how to portray Bane. And I don't care what you guys say in the comments below. Feel free, go at me. But I hated Tom Hardy's Bane. Hated it.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, for the Batman series, if that was completely different off topic, when it came to like Tom Hardy's portrayal of comic book characters, for Venom, I did not get that big brute dominant, I have my life together type of feeling from him that would make him an interesting character. I didn't get that at all. And when it came to his portrayal of Bane, for me, for the times I have seen him in those instances, I never really cared about that character either, especially whenever he portrayed it in his series either. But like, I still love him as an actor.
But it's like this, like, that wasn't Bane. Yeah. That was some completely different character with the name Bane, right? And this wasn't Eddie Brock. This is a completely different person with the name Eddie Brock. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't know these characters that he's playing, so as much as great actor he may be, he's missing the mark on these iconic characters. And when you're portraying somebody who, a character that exists for many years, people are expecting that character to be like the way they have been for the past 20 years. And that's why, like, as much as I want to say, oh, I'll justify the fact that this movie is an alternative version of Venom, an alternate universe version of Venom.
Yeah.
But we don't want that. We don't want some new vision of Venom. We want the Venom that we've known to love all these years.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't lie, a bigger part of that is going to be just because of the whole copyright thing with Spider-Man and how they're going to try to go about that. When it comes to them not being able to end up including Spider-Man for Venom, that hurts them overall a lot, because that's probably the reason that you see Venom in pretty much most of Marvel.
Are you saying for copyright issues they couldn't include Spider-Man? Because Sony owns the copyright to Spider-Man.
Right. But here was the thing with Venom, is that they were debating about whether or not to include him as part of the official Marvel's universe, like the actual same people as Thor, Hulk. Right, because if Venom ends up doing his own thing because Sony technically has the copyright as of right now for Venom. It was in association with Marvel. Because Sony and Marvel had somewhat different plans for the character, they could not agree to completely immediately saying, oh yeah, he's going to be part of the official Marvel universe, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit somewhat copyright, but it's still like this in association with Marvel thing, because Sony still wanted their own version of the character to be done.
Right. Back to why I didn't care about the movie. Well, another thing, one of the biggest things for me, and ironically, you mentioned that you were a fan of the story. Now, I'll be honest, like this, I was somewhat a fan of the story, even though I didn't like really a lot of the dialogue. I felt like a lot of the jokes were missed. Like, I wasn't even 100% sure if they were intentional jokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but what really killed it when the story came to why Venom changed his mind and joined sides. After already when they left out the whole reason why Venom needed to be on that spaceship with Riot, why Riot needed to find Venom to get Venom back by his side. What it was when he's like, I was a loser on my planet like you, but on this planet I can be something different. It's like, you're the reason, you made me change my mind. He didn't say, he didn't go, he could have went way more in depth with why Eddie inspired him to change his mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the fact that, like I said earlier, the fact that they were losers, that they made Venom to be a loser. Come on, man. Come on. It's like I understand, like, he couldn't keep up with the other guy, Riot, because he hasn't bonded with Peter Parker to have that super strength and all those extra super abilities.
Right.
Get that one a little happy.
Yeah. Right.
So anyways, I think I pretty much said everything I had to say about why I wasn't a fan of the movie. But as a comic book geek, I can't help but love to see one of my all-time favorite superheroes or anti-heroes or back villains, whatever you call it, on TV.
Yeah, on
the big screen.
Yeah.
In action, live action. So with everything negative that I said, thank you guys. Thank you, Sony. Thank you, Marvel, for bringing that to life.
But yeah, honestly, I've said I think everything I wanted to say as well. If I was to give the rating of the movie, like on 1 to 10 scale, I'd probably set it at around like 5-ish. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, maybe pushing 6.
So let me ask you, and on the count of 3, we're both going to give our answers. So if this movie would make our next top 10 worst Marvel movies list. 1, 2, 3.
No.
Yes. I love how we got opposite answers every time.
Again, that's the geek out, I guess.
Yeah, you have our opinion, how we feel, and now if you guys disagree, feel free to put in the comments if you agree or disagree. And with that, till next time.